welcome back to Other Speed Shop. So we're gonna find out what happened to the Lexus yesterday when my wife was driving home. But if you watch my short, you know that crank it, all it does is spin. It doesn't like catch or nothing. So I think the timing belt jumped or the water pump blew or something, because there's coolant smell everywhere, and it just there's no connection between the crank and the cams. So we're gonna find out what's going on. All right, let's get her popped and figure out where the heck this. Too many damn cars. So, right there. Oh my. What is all that mess? Wow. Oh, what is that? Hopefully it's just water mixed with country dirt. But we're gonna get these covers off and see if that's what happened, if the cam popped. I didn't mean the cam, I meant the timing belt, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. So we definitely got a mess on our hands here, but let's get some of this bracketry off of here. I think most of them are 12s or 15s, maybe. All right, 14. Forgot Toyotas are pretty much all 10s, 12s, and 15s. All right, timing belt cover, 10 mils. Trying not to tighten it, let's loosen it instead. Check out those specialized bolts, get the little heads on it, or the shanks on it, so that way it can't over torque it. You know, one day I needed some swivel-headed ratcheting wrenches, and never been a fan of the Harbor Freight ones. These are Pittsburgh, but these are pretty nice. As far as the actual, like, just your standard wrenches, their sizes are always off, but as far as the ratcheting wrenches go, they seem to work. Yeah, definitely no tension left on it. So what did we lose? Let me get this other bracket off here. You can see, definitely lost something because there's no tension left on the belt. That pulley seems fine, and the fact that it's got coolant everywhere, I'm beginning to think we lost the water pump. Which really sucks because that was less than, I think it's about a year old, if that. So let's get that bracket off and see what we see. So I'm not exactly sure. I don't see anything obvious. No chunks of belt. I don't have the bottom cover off yet, but we'll get to that. We gotta go through the wheel well for that. But I just wanted to see, there's like nicks in the pulley for the water pump. And we can tell that the belt's loose, so we're gonna try to pull this belt off. And then I think the water pump might be locked up. Ah, man. No, that ain't locked up. So what in the world happened here? Did we break a cam or something? Oh, that one's not broken. I don't know. We break the crank. I don't know. We gotta dig more into it. Nothing's standing out. I thought the water pump for sure was bad. We obviously blew something over here, but I don't know what or where that's coming from yet. Maybe we just blew head gas. I wasn't driving it, so I don't know if it overheated or what. I'll take the upper radiator hose off and see what's underneath that. Does it feel like there's another chunk of radiator hose over there? Oh, that's interesting. Well, that ain't good, but what the heck? Look at that. That plastic is completely destroyed. Interesting. But why would that cause it not to start? Do we lose compression? And the timing belt was obviously loose because I took it off by hand without loosening anything, without taking the tension off of it. So maybe the crank sprocket, maybe the keyway broke. I don't know. But I want to find out. Okay, so I wanted to see what could be causing this. I think I'm gonna be pulling out the spark plugs and checking pistons next. But right now I have it lined up top dead center on the cams and the crank right now. And just to see if this is actually an interference engine, we're gonna crank it around, see if it hits. Yep, right there. Just hit a hard spot. So about 2/3 of the way around, it hits a hard spot. So that tells me it's hitting the pistons, or the valves right now. So that means it is definitely an interference engine. I'm kind of curious to see what kind of damage I may have done, or may have been done. So far, while removing these coil covers, or coils, I found a number, whatever number that is, the middle one on the outside. It was stuck. And look at all the crud on there, plus the oil. I don't know, it was one of these. I can't remember which one. But that looks like it's been melted. But yeah, pretty sure there's that one. That one was stuck. So that's number, well, it's the second one over, the middle one. And it was full of oil. Even though it wasn't that long ago that I changed the valve cover gaskets on this thing. Maybe it was longer ago than I remember, but yeah, we're gonna pull those plugs out and check the bore scope and see what we see. Just want to show you real quick how much oil is down inside there. So that ain't good. Chunks of crap too. I don't know what the heck that is. Kind of looks like what was in the radiator hose, or around the radiator hose. So who knows? It ain't good, whatever it is. The third one is even worse. So I just put a bunch of oil down in the cylinder, but whatever. Well, that piston looks pretty good. A little bit of dirt in there, but I think that's just dirt. So let's check number 2, or whatever number that actually is. It's one of the oily ones. That one's up right now. Dirty, but why does that piston look like it doesn't have release on it? But it might, just can't see them because we're not in that part of the piston. Got number 3 here. What is that? Is it just oil? Bunch of crap in there, but I can't tell if it's just from the oil or what. Nothing's standing out too bad. That's about halfway up. So for the front 3 are good, so, well, as far as I can tell. But yeah, the back 3 are a little harder to look at. So here's what the number 1 piston looks like. I mean, looks pretty good in there compared to the other 2 that are filled with oil. Well, since it's easy to access, we're gonna go ahead and pull the old valve cover off and see what we see under there. Maybe spin the cam just to see what happens. All right, so one of the things I did find a problem with is the timing belt tensioner. It was stuck. I got it to free up a little bit, but before it wouldn't even do that much. But yeah, so I think that was definitely one of the issues, but I don't understand why it was cranking and not spinning anything other than the crank. So the only other thing I want to look at is possibly the flex plate. Did the flex plate decide to take a crap? I don't know. But I kind of need some, you know what I'm probably going to do? I'm going to make sure I'm going to turn the cams to where they're not hitting anything. And I'm going to crank it with the starter and see what happens. But I'll do a revolution by hand with the crank, with the cams out of, with none of the cams, none of the valves open. So right now we have, I don't see any cams actually. I don't know. There might be a couple valves partially open. None of these ones look like they're open though. But anyways, we're gonna take the cams out of we're gonna put them all so they're closed, and that way I can crank the starter. All right, so we're gonna crank this around a few times just to show that it rotates freely. Almost too freely. Still have 3 of the spark plugs in, and all the valves are closed. But as you see, it rotates without hitting anything, so we're good on that. So I'm going to crank it, the starter, and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and crank the starter. I want y'all to watch that right there, make sure it's spinning. If I just focus better. Try that right there. All right, so were we spinning? I smell gas. But anyways, let me check the video. All right, so other than the tensioner for the timing belt sticking, I haven't found anything else. I did a scope again. I lowered the pistons down, checked the valves and the pistons, make sure there's no holes in them on the front, but we still gotta do the back. So in order to do that, we gotta pull the intake off. So that's a pretty good job. So we're gonna do that real quick. Yeah, not real quick, but we're gonna do that next. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so I got the intake off. Couple bolts that are a pain in the butt to get to. This one back here, that one especially, because it's way back here underneath the cowl, and it's a 14 millimeter. That one back there is a 12 millimeter, but it's pretty easy to get to once you get the throttle body out, and that's when you tight on the bottom. And then there's another one on the bottom of, or attached to the throttle body itself, and that's obviously not tightened down on the bottom either. So I guess the last time I had this apart, I didn't tighten everything down, but so now I can get to the valve cover, and it doesn't look like yeah, there's blue in there. So I replaced this valve cover gasket too. Can't tell if it's got oil down in it yet, but I blew it out this time, so if there was any, at least got some of it out, so it doesn't all drop down on the cylinder, so I can scope it easier. But I'll get the spark plugs out and check those bores out as well. We came out from taking a little break. This is what I find. Whole pile of oil. I think it came out of the intake. It's an awful lot of oil that came out of the thing. So, I don't know. You can see it's soaked right there, but yeah, this thing's got 200 and almost 50,000 miles on it, so I guess it's minutes match. I don't know. But I'm still gonna pull the valve cover, the spark plugs out of this valve cover, or out of this side. Do a scope on those as well and see what we see. But yeah, like I said, the only thing I've found so far is a bad timing belt tensioner. And it was stuck. I got it to loosen up a little bit, but it still doesn't spring back the way it's supposed to. But so yeah, that's the next step. We're gonna pull the spark plugs out of the back and check those cylinders. So all three of the back ones were filled with oil as well. So yeah, looks like those Felpro gaskets I put in there however many years ago didn't hold up very long. All right, so I scoped the back 3 cylinders and all the pistons look good. There's no evidence of them hitting valves. The valves look good. I'm able to like take, because this thing's pretty cool. It's got this little swivel right here. It allows me to turn it 180 degrees. And I was able to put it down inside the cylinder and point it up towards the valves to look at them. I'm going to redo the front ones, but just to recheck them, because there was a set that, I can't remember which one it was, maybe over here, the last one, that it looked like it had some shiny marks on this piston, on the one of the valves, but it might have just been a reflection from oil or something. But I'm gonna check those again, and but the back ones look good. There's no evidence of any kind of contact, so I think we'll be good back there. And like I said, I'm gonna recheck these front ones and go from there. I'm gonna try to show you real quick how I can look up at the valves. You can see that's the piston number 2, whatever, right here, the middle one. It's also one of the most crap in it, but that could just be dirt and oil. So what I can do is I can shove it down in there all the way to the piston and take this little lever and flip it. And it allows me to see the valves, so I can go down and look at the valves now. Wish this thing could record video, but I don't think it can. I can take pictures, but not video. See if I can flip it the other direction here. So it's hard trying to maneuver it and work the camera and get you all in there with the bore scope here. But I just wanted to show you could actually take a look at the valves too, just by flipping this little lever. All right, so we checked the front cylinders again and looked up at the valves, and none of the valves have any kind of witness marks or evidence of them hitting the pistons. The pistons look clean too. They're harder to see because they got oil in them, especially these 2 here. They got oil in them, so they're kind of covering the pistons. So definitely when I put it back together and I want to blow that out a little bit, you know, just let it crank over and hopefully let the compression blow some of that oil out of there. So I think another thing I want to do is do a compression test, but without the valves moving, kind of can't take in air, can it? So, but yeah, definitely got to replace valve cover gaskets since we're in here, and spark plugs probably. I would do coils, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of money because my wife's planning on getting a new car. Oh, I definitely want to do a new tensioner, because that's pretty much what the problem is, I think. I think it lost its tension and it might have been jumping, but I don't know. It's kind of a oddball thing, so. But we got to the point where we can at least, you know, put everything back together and see if it'll spin without hitting anything and see if we can get compression out of it. It definitely doesn't sound like it has compression at the moment. But yeah, if you get this wiring stuff out of the way, it'd be so much easier to get that back freaking belt on. But anyways, I'm just rambling now. So yeah, so now it's about a matter of parts. And so we'll come back when I get some parts. All right, well, I just found a few more things. So these coils are cracked. That was the one that was stuck really bad in there. You can feel it swelled. That one is good. This one's a new one from O'Reilly's, but look at how the boot around is deteriorating. I don't know if that's from the oil or... No, that one didn't even have oil in it. So I don't know. Weird. But the back ones, one of them was good, but look at that crack. If I can focus. Look at that crack right there. And that one all the way around. I just thought it was just dirt and I was going to clean it up, but then I realized it's a groove. So yeah, finding some interesting stuff on this thing. But I just want to know if the timing is good, if it'll actually run again. Then I'll worry about all the other expensive parts like the coils and stuff. All right, so I got the new timing belt tensioner ordered. I put a short out and I call it the timing cover tensioner. But so that'll be in tomorrow, so I can get the timing belt back on, make sure nothing is broken, make sure and check for compression at that point. And then at that point, then we got to decide how much we want to put into it, because it needs a new radiator at least, because that's right there. Needs at least 3 new coil packs, but I'd rather do all of them, but they're like 80 bucks a piece, so I really don't want to spend that much money on it, especially since my wife's getting a new car. So, not new car, but you know, new to us car. So, yeah. But tomorrow I should have the tensioner and we can get that all back together in there and make sure nothing's hitting nothing else, and make sure we have compression and go from there. Hopefully we don't have a blown head gasket or something, but I didn't see any evidence of it in the cylinders. But, you know, maybe I should, I don't have a leak down tester anymore. I used to. But yeah, definitely do a compression test and then leak down test if that doesn't pan out, and then go from there. All right, just got back from town. I got the new tensioner. So we can put that in there. Hopefully the belt's still good, wherever the heck I put that at. Where did I put the belt at? It's around here someplace. Get all that stuff back on there. I'll go through how we do that as far as lining up the marks again. Can actually see it a little bit better now with the wiring out of the way back here. So we're gonna see that mark better to line everything up. So hopefully can make it work. I haven't found any smoking guns as far as pulleys or anything that are out of whack. But so yeah, stick that on there and see what happens, I guess. Oh yeah, I went to the junkyard too and picked up a new gauge cluster cover and a vent and a switch cover for the Camaro, because I broke those when I was taking it apart doing the air conditioning and stuff. All right, so the marks you gotta watch out for. See this little nick in the cover? Well, this mark on this cam, the front cam, lines up with that. And then back here, same kind of deal. See if I can get you. So see the little groove right there? And the mark on the cam, which is right there. It just won't focus. There it goes right there to there. And then down on the crank, you got that dot up there on top. And that lines up with that little tiny bump on the timing cover. And then there's another one, another dot on this side. If I can get it to show up here. Right there, in the middle of the screen. And that's where you put your belt marking. So the marks on the belt, that's where you line that one up at. All right, so these are the marks that are on the belt. That right there, see the FR? That's the front. So you want those arrows pointing away from the motor, towards the front of the motor. And you got another mark here and here. Those are for the cams. And this one down, that one's for the crank. That's what it lines up with, right there. Up here, and this one, this belt needs to line up with this mark over here. We're off by at least a tooth. So you gotta play around with that a little bit to get it to, this one's off by a tooth, that's why. All right, so that one's on now. Get this one over here to line up. Get this around the tensioner pulley. I gotta go down below to get it on the crank pulley. Okay, so that mark's lined up, that mark's lined up. Now we need to move down below and make sure we're lined up on the crank pulley as well. All right, if you come down here, you can see that I'm just one tooth off on that belt right there. I'm trying to get the loop around here and go on. I can't do that with one hand, so when I get it back on, when I get it on there, I'll bring you all back. So I know it's really hard to see, but I'm trying to get you in here. You're gonna go upside down here. But if you look right there, see there's the mark for the timing and there's the belt mark. So they are lined up. Sorry about putting you upside down, but sometimes it just has to be done. So now we gotta get the tensioner on there. And it's actually kind of a pain in the butt part because it's kind of tucked up behind all that stuff and we gotta get it into a certain location there. And yeah, and there's already tension on it. But yeah, let's get that in there. All right, I'm gonna give you a little trick on doing this. Use one of these clamps and clamp onto the belt to hold it in place. So it stops jumping on you. Now we should be able to get it on there. Proper tension up here, lines marked up, marks lined up, not lines marked up, but lines, you know what I mean. The marks are lined up. Let's get this tensioner in here. Now that we actually have the room to. All right. So we got that. Now what to do is pull the pin. You should tension it. So we're still lined up here, still lined up here, still lined up down the crank. So now we should be able to pull this pin and it should tension it properly. Feels good. So if that was the actual problem, hopefully we just fixed it. All right, so with the tensioner pulled and tensioning, you can see we're lined up right there. If I can focus, right there, and even down here. It's kind of hard to see from here, but that's the mark, and right there's a mark on the belt. Can't really see it. It's so hard to get that shot, but just trust me when I say it's lined up. All right, so we're gonna spin her over, see if it turns and make sure nothing hits. So let's do that real quick. All right, so just gonna make sure everything turns over the way it's supposed to. We'll kind of play it by ear at that point. I'm going to bring it around to the timing mark again on the crank. And it should line up the marks on the cams too. We're one revolution off. Good there. And good there. A little closer here. So you see how that mark still lined up with the pointer. And so is that one. And so is the crank. If you look at the top one. Maybe. Let me zoom in. There's the top one. Right there in the middle. All right, so the engine is timed right. So what we're gonna do next, I'm gonna hook up to the starter with a trigger. I'm gonna crank her over. see if we get compression. All right, so we got the trigger hooked up so we can spin the motor. Everything seems to be good. So next thing we're gonna do is a compression test on it. Whoa, that ain't good. It's not even 30 PSI. No compression there. What is that squeaking noise? But so far none of them have much compression. So maybe we blew a head gasket. Pull this valve cover off and watch the cam move. Definitely low compression on these first two cylinders. The oil drain down a little bit so it's not making a total mess. Definitely a difference. So listen to this one. Pulling my hand right off of it. I was barely squeaking by. It's a little better than that one, but I think something's in this area right here is done. Well, that sucks. Just spent $53 for no reason for a tensioner when it's a blown head gasket or a bad valve or a hole in the piston or something. I don't know. But I kind of want to feel the back ones, but I can't get my hand down there. So either a bad head gasket or something else. Crap. So maybe this mess here, maybe that is from a bad head gasket. But I don't think I'm going to go any further with it because, like I said, my wife's getting a new car. Or we're getting a new car, or whatever you want to call it. She's getting something different. So I'm not too concerned about this right now. Yeah, so I decided to put the spark plugs back in just to see if it sounded like it has compression, and this is the result. Nothing. So yeah, we definitely lost compression somewhere, and I'm gonna find out. I'll probably pull the heads, not in this video, but I'll pull it apart, see what we find. I'll pull the back cover off just to see if there's anything obvious there. But yeah, it's not good. Definitely losing compression for some reason, whether it be just the head gasket. Well, there's no coolant in the oil, but who knows? Just, I think we're done since we're getting a new car anyways. It doesn't matter. But I was hoping that maybe it'd be an easy fix and I could give this to my son, but you know, whatever. So as of right now, I'm gonna call it on this one. This thing, I'm not making any compression on a couple of the cylinders. This one right here, I think it's one of these two here, it's not even sucking in air. So yeah, something definitely happened internally. And I might tear it down later just to see if I can figure out exactly what went wrong. But yeah, it's done. It's been a good car, and hate to see her go, but sometimes you just gotta let them go. All right, that's gonna do it for this video and for the Lexus, because I'm not gonna try to fix it. It's not worth putting the money into it at this point. It's got good tires. Maybe I'll put the tires. Unfortunately, they will fit the Firebird, I think, as far as the tires, not the rims, but I might use those to replace the corded ones on this. But a few good parts on it. I might part it out. I don't know yet exactly what I'm gonna do. It kind of depends on what I find when I dig a little deeper into it. But yeah, sad to see it go. We've had it for 6 or 7 years now, and it's been a good car. It made it all the way out to Oklahoma on the first drive when we came out here. So pretty happy about that, but I think it's time to let her go. But anyways, if you like this video, leave a like down there. Why am I not talking? If you like the video, leave a like down there. If you want to make a comment, leave a comment down there. Let me know what I can do better. And subscribe while you're at it. So until next time, I will see you all later.